I stopped that and moved to Burgundy. And finally, instead of being there for a 2 months vintage job in 2000, while I'm still here, worked for 4 different wineries in Burgundy, and we started our own in 2008.
Thank you. That was very concise and amazing. Can you talk about what you did with those other wineries and your journey through that? I want to talk about how you source and your relationship with the people you source from. So if you could talk about how that started through those.
The one in Burgundy, you mean?
Yeah.
So in Burgundy, I've arrived at Olivier Leflèvre. So as helping for harvest in a work term of 2 months. And finally, after 3 weeks, I don't know why, Franck Grux and Olivier Leflèvre, so cellar master and Olivier Leflèvre, said, Patrick, if you want, we would like you to stay with us. And then you build us a winery with a joint venture with Verger, with Guffens in Chablis, and you're going to be taking care of it. So, and what I've learned at Olivier Leflèvre is how to deal and how to manage many different sourcing of grape, how to talk with the producers and everything on the cultural world, how to manage so many different appellations from A to Z. That was the first pinpoint that I've learned at Leflèvre. Then I move at Verger. At Verger, I've learned the real day of picking, how to rack, how to press on very nice precision. I think that's what I've gained from there. Then at Brocard, which is producing 10% of the appellation, I've learned all the mosaic of subsoil of Chablis, what's the differentiation also in village level. And those 3 stories bond together is the basic of Patrick Piuze. That's why we make a certain amount of appellation, sometimes of smaller quantity, but what the identity of Burgundy is the essence of the place. So that's why in small amount of bottle compared to the wineries that I've been working with, we make 31 cuvées every year. So 1 plot is 1 wine. And that's what I've learned from all those. Try not to take the mistake, but trying to take all the good things. And since 2008, we've done some modification to our work because we figured that there's some things that we could improve. And we still on the search of that, but now we start to know our thing and our facilities. So we do some improvement, but the details are a bit smaller than what we did in 2010, 11, and 12.
I mean, but you have an actual cellar. And I think that's important to stress because it's so hard to start. It's so like unheard of for somebody to start a winery in Burgundy as a first generation, especially with an actual cellar instead of through a garage or something. How did you get that? And it's like a sick old cellar that you have. How did you get to that cellar?
Well, the story came in 2 times because the first winery that we were sharing with somebody that had a very big cellar, and we were sharing half of it. We did 2008, 9, and 10 there. So we wanted to look to have our own facilities, but we didn't want to build, or if we wanted to build, we needed time to build. So we took that the decision to share a winery for the first 3 years. We did, and then we had the opportunity to buy in the center of Chablis in June 2011, the winery that we have now, which is perfect to our convenience. It has everything that we wanted. And we had the decision, do we buy something old with history or do we build something? And Burgundy is history. So we wanted to be in old cellar, underground cellar, and yeah, play with the history of Burgundy. Although we are not from there, but we don't want to reinvent Burgundy. We just try to respect it.
So you said that at Brocard, you understood the microclimates and microsoils and stuff. as you transitioned into making Piuze yourself, what did you want to take with you? What soil types specifically? And what areas, what regions?
First, we wanted to separate all the village. To me, the one that were completely different than the others were Chiché, Courgy, Fléy, Chablis. Fier is also another one.
Can you show me the map? Can you hold your map up? So for people to just have some sort of perspective of where those are. I know it's really high tech.
Yeah, it's super high tech. Yeah, because you see all the. I'll try to with maybe you don't. Do you see well or not?
Yes, we see well.
Okay, so the way Chablis is made is, as you see here, there's a little river, which is the biggest valley that we have. Because we have to think that in the Jurassic era, a while back, everything was underwater. And during the Ice Age, it was a glacier. And the glacier created all those valleys. And when it started to melt, some years it was melting fast, some years it was melting a little bit fast, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. And it made some decompression of clay and limestone. And that's why we have so many different little valleys that you can see on the map, which makes all different terroir, because we have different exposition of wind, different exposition of sun. Some valleys are close, which are a little bit warmer. So on that, and on the right bank, which that's all the little mountain of the Grand Cru, which is 100 hectares, which we call the right bank. And the left bank is the valley where you have the Montmain, the Vaillon, Premier Cru. On the right bank, we have mostly limestone in the subsoil. And the more that we are further from the left bank, the more we have clay in the subsoil. The influence will be that right bank will be more developed into spice and herbs, and the left bank will be more developed into fruit.
So when you're talking about, when you pointed out those, or when you said the 5 AOC areas that you work in, can you point to them?
Okay, so well, Chablis is the commune of Chablis. Yeah, because unfortunately you don't see the Chablis, the whole appellation is 14,000 hectares. The Chablis village is the main village, which is 4,000 people. But there is 14 little communes inside the appellation. Courgy, the first one is right here. So Chablis is here, Courgy is here, which is only 3.5 kilometers, which means what, 2 miles?
Yeah.
Or something about.
Right.
And then, pardon me?
Just under, about.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Chiché, that is right here, which is another 2 miles from Chablis. So everything is quite close. Fier, which is not even 1 mile, it's half a kilometer. So very, very close. And all those have different specific items, because Courgy, that's where we have our thickest layers of clay. Chiché is pure limestone. Almost straight on bedrock, almost no soil. Where we have Fier, basically it's a baby Montée de Tonnerre, because it all touches Montée de Tonnerre, Premier Cru. Then our terroir de Chablis is a bit of a mix of clay limestone. It's on the left bank, but it's just the north-facing hill of Premier Cru Forêt.
So
there.
in the area of that map, how many hectares does the colored part-ish have? If you said the whole thing is, all of Chablis is 14,000 hectares, I understand.
No, the appellation, well, it's 14,000 hectares. The appellation is 6,500 hectares.
Okay.
The Grand Cru is 100 hectares, which is quite tiny for 7 different Grand Cru. Just to give you an idea, Clos Vougeot or Canton Charlemagne, those 2 Grand Cru from Côte d'Or, are 58 hectares for 1 Grand Cru. In Chablis, for 7 Grand Cru, we have 100 hectares. Mm.
It's like smaller than a ton.
Yeah. They're quite small plots. They are from the Clos, which is the biggest one, which is one bottle out of 4, 25 hectares. Clos here is 25 hectare out of the 100, and then it's usually from 16 to 7 hectare, all mix and match in between all of them.
And you, so it's about like 250 hectares of the original appellation, right?
Pardon me?
It's about 250 hectares of the original, what the monks said. You've said a couple times to me that the monks got it right, and so you don't want to go.
The monks, when they created the appellation 800 years ago, was 1,000 hectares. The whole appellation of Chablis. Now, since 1937, Chablis has grown to 6,500 hectares.
And so you work primarily in that original 1,000 hectares, right?
Yes. We have about 80% of our production that comes from the initial 1,000 hectares from the monks.
You also have said some amazing things, and I feel like I might misremember them. So if you could talk about the etymology of why the crews are named like they are. Remember, it's one of my favorites to talk about.
Well, first, whenever you see a V in front of a premier cru or a grand cru, means a valley. Example, Valmur, which is the valley of maturity. The translation, La Vallée Mure, became Valmur, but it's the valley of maturity, La Vallée Mure, which became a contraction and just with that name. Vaucoupin comes from La Vallée Coupée, the cut valley, so it's Vaucoupin. Montmilieu, it's because it was the middle in between south of Burgundy and Champagne. It was Montmilieu. So all those ones, like the half part in between those two. So everything has a little bit of a name like that.
Isn't prez from the old word for prayer? Did you tell me to?
No, prez is from ladies, but exactly the background, I don't know.
Okay,
there's one which is called Vau Désir, which means the Valley of Desire. That's where people, because you're a little bit hidden from the village, so that's where people were going kissing. There's another one that is called, in Fourchaume, there is a subclimate called L'Homme Mort, which, because on top of the mountain, that's where they were hanging people.
That's awesome. That's opposite of kissing.
Yeah. That's why I finished with that one.
That's good. In these times, I feel like that reality check is really appreciated. So you start Piuze and you have these existing relationships with growers. How did you bring those relationships into the work that you started doing at Piuze?
At the beginning, we had more producers than now, for the reason that even if they liked us, they didn't know if we could pay everything. So we had more producers that were giving less grapes. So the bill was a little bit lower from everybody. And in 2009, 2010, they said that we could pay. So some of the growers that have amazing appellation started to give us a little bit more. So that's why we don't grow. Since 2008, we've grown by 15% only. Although I think we have a okay success by selling, but we don't want to grow because we want to be in capacity to hold on to the status that people have put us, which means you're making okay wine. We don't want to grow and grow and grow. We'd rather be more careful and try to respect what people have said about us, is that we're making decent wine that people seem to enjoy. So, yep.
Aren't some of the people from whom you buy grapes partners, like actual business partners with you?
Yes, we have 3 in our shareholding. We have Vaucoré, the 2 cousins Vaucoré that owns Domaine Vaucoré, that have each 4%, and also Domaine Norroy, which he's based in Fontenay, that has 4%. And those guys, For example, Roy is selling me Preuze, Bougros, part of Volaurent, Terroir Découverte, Petit Chablis from La Petite Preuze, and the Vaucoré des Salas, Montée-de-Tonnerre, Clos, Blanchot, Forêt, Buteau, Valmur, Vaillon-Minot. So yeah, they have very good sourcing, and it will be tough to be able to get access to all those. And when I asked them to join, they said, "Oh yeah, sure, with pleasure." So
I just think that's such a sustainable way of being a negotiator, basically. I think that we have the tendency to kind of criminalize negotiation in general, you know, but I think that the best way to do it is to be like deeply integrated in all facets with your partner.
Yeah, well, we are negociants, and I will not talk about all my colleagues or anything. We might be a different negociant, but even the BVB, which is the interprofession in Burgundy, have gave us a new status, which is vinificateur, récoltant, vinificateur, éleveur, meaning that we are negociant, but we harvest, we transform, and we bottle everything that we make.
Is that a new classification?
Well, it's not a classification that will be, it's just for us on paper techniques on everything, but as all our production comes at harvest, because we go and pick it all, for our declaration to the interprofession, we are into another status because we work exactly like domain.
I heard that you can be called a récoltant in Champagne only if you disgorge on your own property. Like somebody else can make the champagne, send it to you, and if you disgorge, you still can qualify as a récoltant, which I heard is why Baresh...
No, there is two ways. There is récoltant and manipulant in Champagne. It's two different terms. As in Burgundy, you are négociant or you are domain, period. But now, as you probably have seen, most of the domain also are négociants, because to be able to get access to either a little bit more Grand Cru or Premier Cru or get a little bit more village, they take a négociant card. Just for example, négociant in Chablis that buys grape or juice or wine in Chablis, they are 300. There is in 20 years ago, there was only 70. Now is all the domain that only have Chablis, Petit Chablis, want to have a little bit of Premier or Grand Cru, then they take a négociant card and they can buy a little bit of Vaillon, a little bit of Fourchaume, a little bit of Clos or something. So there's more and more people that take their négociant card, and maybe on their label, they will just write négociant on one wine. I don't know exactly. I haven't looked into it because I don't care. But yeah, there is most of the domain that you guys know also have a négociant card, so they can buy. Just to give you an example, Christian Moreau is also négociant. Which he has a domain, he owns 5 hectares of Clos. He has, I don't know how much of Vaillon, but he doesn't have enough Chablis to supply the demand for all the Premier Grand Cru. So he has to buy some village. So there's also domains that are négociants in Chablis.
So with your partners from whom you buy, do you have conversations with them or control over how they farm, and how in general do they farm? Sure, it's different person by person.
Yes, we have a very good partnership. I go to the vineyard all the time. I know exactly who I work with and how they work. To tell them that they have to be completely bio or biodynamic or anything, the subject is not there. It's more to be because the thing is, I don't want to deal under economy at the end of the day. That's one thing. So we can take some decision on when to prune, for example, because I want them to prune later for us, because we will have the bud burst later So we will be more on acidity at harvest, and it will prevent from frost. And I know that they don't put too much of product. They are more thinking, raisonné, growing more than completely let's put everything in. First, because they have very old vine. We buy most of the wine that we buy come from old vines. We don't write it on the label because there is no specification on old vine. We write the place, but old vine there's no law. So you can, most of the time people write old vine just to put €1 or €2 more on the bottle. They take the best cuvée that they have and they put old vine.
Can you talk about, it's one of my favorite things, especially because most people know that you're like an irreverent person in general. Can you talk about the like, fuck you to the old vine thing that you have on the Vion that you label? Your joke?
No, but yeah, because the Vaillon, the subclimate is called Mélino, but in between us, we call it Minot. And Minot in French means the little one. So we write it the little one because the vine was planted in 1935. So it was more a joke regarding the old vine. Calling the Minot is like the little one. So, which should be, in a sense, written young vines. But the vine was planted in 1935, which we can't consider that as young vine.
I just love that wordplay as it relates specifically to the marketing trick of old vines.
No, but the
tongue in cheek.
The important thing is to be specific on the place. Because a very, very old vine in Chablis won't make you make a much better wine because it will do a lot of Milrandage grape. And Milrandage grape means it's a grape that didn't have any fecundation, doesn't have seed. It's a very small berry, but the ratio skin and water is too high. So the wine will be too rich. So and economically, it's tough because the yield is very, very down. So it's good when you have a ratio in between 10-15% of Milrandage grape, because if you're up to 50, 60, 70% Milrandage grape, you will have too much density in the wine and you will lose the clarity of the minerality.
Is there an average time that you see that start to happen?
Usually around after 40 years old, you start to see Milrandage, but it also depends of the clone. If it's a Massal selection or if you take it from pépiniériste, I don't know how you call that. Somebody that, you know, the nursing nursery. So yeah. All the people that we work with, when they work on plantation, we always try to work on Massal selection. So I try to intervene with that, trying to select a good plant. So when they prune, they will take those shoots to make the Massal selection. So even with my growers that are not partner, I even do that because it's, I don't know, it's a partnership that we have. We don't have any contract with anybody that we have. It's only a handshake at harvest with a beer. And I think that we go further in the discussion without having a contract, because a contract, usually people say, oh, look, the contract finished there, there's a dot. And then that's it. So if we have no contract, I'm going to make all the effort to work with him, and he's going to make all the effort to work with me. So I think we go further in the discussion.
So then let's talk, unless there are other people have questions about specific sites, which we can come back to. I want to talk too about your vinification and how you made the decision to use a vertical press. Because
it's not vertical, it's mechanical, it's not vertical.
Well, can you talk about the press decision you made and what it is and how you use it?
Yes, so, well, most of the people that are there know a little bit wine.
Yes, all the people here know a medium to lot bit wine.
Okay, so there is first we harvest everything by hand. because we want to have the stem, so we don't de-stem whatsoever. At the beginning, we had some pneumatical press, which is a bag that inflates and deflates many times in a cycle of 2 hours. And that bag can only go up to 1.9 bar pressure at maximum. And the problem is you make a lot of solids because you have to press and press and decompress many times. So I looked at all the old press that we're doing, which is 2 plateaux that are just with an endless screw, and the 2 plateaus goes together, and it goes up to 5 bar pressure. That way we can increment the pressure without having to break the pressure every 20 minutes. So I think we make a clearer juice, and we go up to 5 bar pressure, which I think we have a bit more dry extract in the middle palate. Because we have the stem will help to drain and to break all the small berries. It will also, that's why we don't de-stem the drainage, so we get better juice, better quality juice. We have a little bit of the enzyme in the stem to help to clarify a little bit the juice for the decantation, the first day of decantation. So we can play on that on the press if we want more potassium or less potassium. If it's a very high acidity year or very low acidity year, we can press a little bit differently. But these are small little details. And then for us, we press and then it goes down by gravity in the racking tank. So there is no pumping or anything. There is no how can I say that? There is no mechanical on any molecules of the grape or in the juice. So it's just start decanting when we press. And then we have a clearer decanting, and it goes quite fast, about 18 hours. Because we have to understand that we are underground cellar, but sometimes we harvest at very high temperature at the moment. Sometimes we harvest at 27 degrees Celsius, 28, meaning about 90 Fahrenheit. So the grape is quite warm, and we are not equipped on the temperature control. Not because we want to make economic consignment, it's just because we don't want to equip ourselves with it. So we are not equipped at all with temperature control. Because the more you will put some cold, the more you will put in front the grape variety. And the point for us is not to put the Chardonnay in front, but only to put the Chablis. So we want the wine, when it ferments, to eat up. I'm sure that most of the people in the wine say, oh, we have to ferment white wine at 18 degrees. For me, that's the worst thing that we can do for Chablis. I like when it ferments at 26, 27, 28 degrees. I would take a little bit like a red wine. A red wine, the juice is completely white. So to be able to extract color, you need to heat up to break the molecule with heat, and then you'll be able to extract color. In Chablis, to be able to extract the personality of the place, you need the wine to heat up, and that way you'll be able to break up the molecule a little bit easier, and then you'll be able to extract more of the taste.
Does that press, that specific kind of press you were talking about, is it used more commonly in red than in white?
In red, it's not used because first they do all the maceration and fermentation, so it's not the same. It's not the same process to press a red or to press a white. Us, we press fresh berries. Them, they press something that they take only 10% of the juice with the press. In red wine, you have almost nothing to press because you take out the juice after 30 days, and it's only a little part that you have to press. So the philosophy between red and white is completely different.
Do you think that the level of potassium that you were talking about as it relates to the press? What are the effects of the level of potassium as fermentation continues and then as the wine ages?
Well, there's two things in the stamp, is potassium and there's also enzyme. So we can work on both if we want. For example, if we have a vintage that is not perfectly healthy, we will press a little bit stronger, which would be, most of the people would be doing differently. But as there is potassium in the stamp, potassium will help to decant. And then so as the enzyme will help to decant, we will have a faster decanting and more clearer juice. And the potassium will help us on the balance of acidity on the finished wine. If we have low tartaric acid, maybe we will press a little bit less strong, for the reason that potassium will take out the acidity. It will play on the pH, on the balanced pH acidity.
Does it have any effect on the potential for pre-mox? Or any effect, any correlation at all?
I think that I've started to use that press, first of all, for pre-mox. Because when you look at all wine made before 85, 86, 1984, 85, 86, there was almost no pre-mox. And pneumatical press was invented in 1984. So I think by pressing lighter, you don't extract enough from the grape, and you don't have enough dry extract to build up the wine. Because pre-mox is on many things. At one point, there was a trend of not putting any sulfur, and then there was the cork, and then there was everything. There's many things, but I think a lot had to do with the press. Pressing too gently, you take out water, but you take out water with the sugar and everything, but you don't take out enough dry extract. So that was the problem.
And then you brought up sulfur too, and it is still a very hot button topic over here. What's your point of view about sulfur? How do you integrate it?
If you can have 4 bottles of wine without a headache, it's because the sulfur was well managed.
I drink really well-balanced wine then, in general.
Yeah, no. Sulfur, well, we put a tiny bit under the press just for the clarification, because we don't want it to start fermenting before we rack, because to take out the solid, the débourbage. After that, we add it after alcoholic and malo. So maybe the question will come. Yes, we do malolactic on every wine, even on very warm vintages. And then after that, we just do one correction before bottling. So we add it 2 times.
This is...
Because we have I'll just go and serve myself a glass.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we want to heat up during the beginning of fermentation to be able to extract as much as possible. But we also want to extend at the same time the alcoholic fermentation. And we are not equipped with temperature control. So what we do without the temperature is yeast loves sugar that's transformed into alcohol. But fermentation needs oxygen. And the more you ferment, the more you have nitrogen. You have CO2 in the wine. And as alcohol raises, yeast doesn't like alcohol and doesn't like to have too much nitrogen. So what we do is we try to fill up all the barrel in the tank as fast as possible to saturate the place with nitrogen. So the yeast have more problem to work. So we slow down alcoholic fermentation like that.
Okay. I'm happy I'm recording this because that's a complicated thought. And this is a complicated question that I'm going to try to consolidate. I just heard a really interesting podcast about the difference, the the difference that hot vintages have created in tartaric acid levels and in malic acid levels. It was with the winemaker of Arnaud. He was talking about, because the malic acid levels have been so low when they pick, the transition from fermentation, from primary fermentation to malolactic fermentation is happening way, way faster. So he releases the wine at the same time, but because they overlap more, because the malic acid is lower, there's more time on the lees. How do you feel that different levels of acid as it relates to global warming change that conversation between alcoholic and malic?
Yeah, but it's easier understandable that the malic is lower, because all the stabilization of the acids are being done at maturation, which is the last 3 weeks of the hanging time of the grape on the vine. As now we harvest on the 1st or the 10th of September, meaning that the last 3 weeks of maturation of the grape occurs at very long day of sunshine with warmer nights. So it degrades it degrades the acidity, the malic acid, as compared when we were maybe in 1980, 1970, people were starting to pick on the 10th of October. So picking on the 10th of October, when you have your last 3 weeks of maturation, you had 1.5 hours less of sun and you have very cold night. So the acidity was very high. Now it's true that the malic is being done very fast. Most of the time, but Arnaud was talking about red wine probably. No?
No.
Okay,
No.
but us on our white wine, I don't know if it's specific to us, but even on high acidity vintage, the malolactic is being done before the end of alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So alcoholic fermentation is being stopped. Then the bacteria takes over, degrades the acidity, and most of the time it's the bacteria instead of the yeast that finish to eat the sugar to finish the alcoholic fermentation. It is a little bit risky at one point, because most of the time when it's bacteria that eats the sugar, it creates a little bit of volatile acidity. So the wine needs to have enough density to be able to support that volatile acidity.
And that's
but at the same time, it gives you big complexity to the wine.
That's the sort of density that you're talking about being able to achieve from that press, right?
Yes. Because we have volatile acidity that are quite higher than average, or lower than by law, because by law is 0.88 gram per liter. Most of the people that do put yeast and ferment in 3 weeks the sugar and then put some bacteria to do the malolactic, usually they finish at volatile acidity at 0.20, 0.25. Us, we are usually about 0.55, 0.60.
Does that change the way that wine ages, higher volatile acidity?
It's the most stable acidity that there is. So on that, and acidity, the good thing is acidity doesn't have oxidative form. Alcohol has an oxidative form, as ethanol, which is the wine that the alcohol that we have in the wine. Ethanol is the normal form. Ethanal is the oxidative form, but acidity doesn't have an oxidative form. So it's quite
really
stable.
Fucking cool. I didn't know that. Okay, so can you talk? I know, and I'm so happy that you shared it. I know that already we're going too long, and we could talk forever and ever. So after fermentation, then what happens?
We go on vacation for 2 months.
That sounds nice. That sounds nice right about now.
Yeah, but now, but that's what we've been doing now for 2 months. No. Then we just fill up barrel nonstop and we just let it go. We never stir the lees. I'm against that, because you make a mechanical gesture on the molecule, and in molecules you have a lot of oxygen And the more you will move the molecule, the more you will bring out oxygen in the wine, and the more you will tire the wine. We're talking about pre-mux. One of the first things about pre-mux was a lot of batonnage people were doing in 95, 96, 97. That's why to have density in the wine, you need to have the lees in suspension most of the time. And that's why we try to slow down alcoholic fermentation. Because if it ferments, if the alcoholic fermentation lasts 4 months, you will create carbon dioxide for 4 months, meaning that all the lees will be in suspension for 4 months. So you will have a natural stirring of lees for 4 months, instead of just taking, having a fast fermentation and having to stir the lees and take out oxygen in the wine. I think you age the wine when you stir the wine and you don't build the wine.
Got it. And then from there, there's a person on this phone call who's the biggest Chablis fan I've ever met. I mean, I'm sure maybe besides you. And we have had a lot of conversations about how Grand Cru has, in his opinion, too much oak, and Premier Cru is more interesting. As he's on this TV, I don't know if you can see him, he's smiling. It's Sterner from Aspen. Can you talk about your oak usage in general, and if you also feel that that Grand Cru, why does Grand Cru have more oak than Premier Cru, and do you think that's warranted? I guess.
Do they really have? I don't know. I think the signature of oak in Chablis is not due to the status of level of appellation, but it's the status of the house. It's the philosophy of every house. Me, I don't know many people that use new oak, and when they do use it, they use it in small portion, and it's more to renew their barrel park than to put a signature. There were some, until maybe 2006, no, maybe 2010, until 2010, some people were putting very much new wood in Chablis, but I think since 2010, people have been going away from new barrel. I think there's no point.
I'm shipping you more Grand Cru next year.
For the reason, our wood philosophy is we put a lot in barrel, but we buy only old barrel. And when I say old barrel, is the barrel that we will buy new for this vintage. They were new in 2010. No, 2012, sorry. So they already add to another winery 8 vintages, meaning that the wood character is basically out, but we still have the breeding characteristic of the wood that will give the density on the wine. And we do a bit in different ways. We only buy barrel that were from high acidity vintages, because a barrel gives a lot of flavor to the wine on the first year, but an exchange is always going on the 2 ways. So the barrel, the juice will also mark the barrel for life. I like to use 2005 as an example. 2005 was very mature in Burgundy, and all the barrel from 2005 tastes like apricot, no matter what. And the high acidity vintages will mark the barrel a lot more neutral. They will, and now we buy only from high acidity vintages. That's why I say 2012, because last year we're buying 2010. We have 2008, 2007, 2004, 2002 barrel. But I will not buy 2011 or 2009 barrel for the reason that I think they have been marked by the vintages. And now our sourcing has changed a little bit. We buy only from Champagne. So we buy from Champagne in high acidity vintages. I think it's the most neutral barrel that we can find.
So then in the conversation about vintage, we are almost through with a 2018. Can you just touch briefly on that vintage, how you think it compares to others and how you think it will age?
It's a very good question, how it will age. I'm not Nostradamus or anybody. I have a good neighbor that has started to make his own. He took over from his father in 1978. So he has a good background on vintages. And he told me that 2018 was only comparable to 1978 and to 1982. For the amount of juice that we have, the amount of quantity of grape that we had, and the maturity that we had. Because we had plethoric amount of grape, but a very good maturity, and under very good condition, everything was healthy. We had good quantity because 2016 and 17 were so low in quantity, but the vine was working well. It put so much in reserve that with a good growing season in 2018, the plant with the reserve it had, it just gave us tons of grape. But he told me that it tastes like 82. And when we tasted 82 together, it's aging very well. The component won't be the alcohol or won't be the acidity. It will be a bit more the maturity of the skin that will make it age.
And when does the skin maturity, what you talked about, the reserves from 2016 and 2017, do those affect only quantity or do they also affect skin maturity?
Skin maturity in 16, because the plant lost grapes through the growing season. And I think the plant had the memory to give energy to a certain amount of plant after flowering, to an amount of grape after flowering, but it lost grape on the way through catastrophe. So it gave too much concentration to a small amount of grape. So we have a bit of a confit taste into 16. And 17, the plant was more focused because it lost all its grape at the frost before flowering. So the plant managed to give energy only to that certain amount of grape. So 17 will age better than 16. 16 is a little bit different.
I never have thought about plants having memory like that. That's a really poetic way to talk about vintages as like through the lens of a plant memory. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to describe the way I feel it, and you know me, Todd knows me. You guys know a little bit my feeling on wine. We never make any analysis or nothing. We just make wine the way we feel it, and with our emotion and with our little vision. But that's how I can talk about vintages.
How about 19 then? What were plants remembering in 19?
Oh, 19 is good. It's fucking different. It's super. It's I've never seen that. All the team that I work with, well, we have a small team, but the team that I work with, I said to them pre-harvest, I said, forget everything you know about wine. It will be different. We will Chablis like you've never seen before. Because first of all, usually I'm the first picker in Chablis. We pick from 11.6 degree to 12.2, and that's it. And as soon as the skin is ripe, we go to pick. In 2019, and usually, I'm the first one to pick in our Chablis, sometimes 5-6 days before everybody. And this year, everybody was passing in front of the winery and saying, Patrick didn't start, Patrick didn't start. And so everybody went to start picking. And I didn't start. I start 1 week after everybody. Although the alcohol degree was very high. The alcohol degree was 13.5, 13.7, 13.8. But to me, the skin maturity didn't arrive before. So we waited for the skin maturity. So we have wine that are very high in alcohol degree. So we will have the density of Côte d'Or with the taste of Chablis.
So that's the barometer for when you make the decision to pick is more on the skin ripeness than on bricks or any sort of other analytical
I don't do analysis. I just go on skin and with my taste.
Got it.
And yeah.
I promised you and other people that this would only be an hour, and it's been 57 minutes. And I feel like a lot of people who haven't had the luxury of listening to you talk now understand why it's possible to listen to you talk about this, the details in your very linear, singular philosophy forever. We could go through just that map for forever and ever. So I guess in closing, what is the thing that what area are you the most excited about that you've started to work on? What project is the most exciting to you right now?
Good question. Project? Trying to leave my house.
Oh, that's a good one. Me too.
No. I do it. No, I am happy that I do it in a luxury place. And well, luxury. We have a garden. The weather has been nice. I go to work, and no. On that, it's all good. No, I just hope everybody will be good. That then everybody will be able to enjoy time. Just have to be careful. At the moment, the project is we're on hold for a moment, so it will have to start back. Hopefully, it will start back. I hope that some people will change a little bit their mind. I think or their way of consumption, eating closer to, instead of, if you want a strawberry in January in France, you don't, and you take something closer and you eat strawberry in July and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll
I feel like
see.
your project should maybe be working on your Top Chef audition tape.
But yeah, I have to cook now because it will be 9 o'clock, so it will be time to cook because we eat at that time.
That's a good, I think 9 o'clock is the perfect time to start cooking myself. That's the dinner time.
Yeah. So today is duck breast. It's been marinated in a little bit of old balsamic and orange juice. And we will do that with white asparagus, with a little hollandaise sauce, and that's it. So that's the project of tonight.
And the 2018, what did you say you were drinking? Vaudésir?
Volaurent. And no, I have a Tarte de Bœuf 2001 to join the duck.
Well, now you're bragging and it's annoying. So now we're going to say goodbye.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute everybody.
Be all safe, all of you, and hopefully I'll be able to come and see you in Colorado very soon. The more we make effort now, the faster we'll see each other all.
Thank you so much for taking time and for that huge wealth of information. If there are people who have any extra questions, I'll email them to you so that I can get them back particularly.
I have a question, Brooke. Can I ask?
Yeah. This is Todd Mathis, for those of you who don't know. Todd is Patrick's importer.
Patrick, did you send me the final numbers yet on the 2019 allocation?
No, but I'm just finishing. I cannot do it while I have my phone working now. You'll get your allocation in 20 minutes time.
All right. I'm setting a timer.
You will have yours in half an hour time.
Great. We'll take all of it. And like I said, Sterner, you're taking that Grand Cru this year. I'm gonna unmute everybody so that everybody on this call can say bye and thank you. Everybody's unmuted.
Oh, but first, hey, before giving a small, just not to give too much hope, Premier Grand Cru in 19 are 40% down in quantity.
Okay, but we're still going to take the same allocation as we had last year. I look forward to seeing
it. Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. It was really, really great to see you. I'm so happy that you're doing well.
Thanks, Patrick.
All of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, Patrick. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Brooke. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. Thanks, Brooke.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Sterner, I'm calling you soon.